Once upon a time, in a small corner of Bangladesh, a young man looked out of his university window and saw something that changed his life forever. His name was Mohammad Yunus. He wasn't just another professor teaching economics. He was a man with a heart that refused to ignore the suffering around him. It was the mid-1970s, and Bangladesh was struggling. Poverty was everywhere. Children were thin, farmers were hungry, and women worked endlessly only to stay poor. Yunus had just returned from the United States, where he had earned his PhD in economics and could have easily chosen a comfortable academic life. But when he walked through the villages near Chittagong University, he felt something strange, something pulling at his heart. He saw hard-working people, especially women, trapped in an endless circle of debt. They borrowed tiny amounts of money from local moneylenders just to buy bamboo, to make baskets, or to buy rice to feed their families. But those lenders charged them so much interest that they could never escape. Yunus realized that these people were not lazy or unskilled, they were simply powerless. One day, he met a woman named Sophia Begum. She made bamboo stools for a living, yet she earned less than a few cents a day. Why? Because she didn't have enough money to buy bamboo herself. She had to borrow from a rich man who owned all the bamboo in the village, and she had to sell her finished stools back to him for almost nothing. Yunus couldn't believe it. He asked her how much she needed to buy her own bamboo. Her answer shocked him. It was less than $2. That night, Yunus couldn't sleep. How could a talented, hard-working woman remain trapped because of $2? How many others were like her? The next morning, he went back and made a list of everyone in the village who was in the same situation. There were 42 people. Together, they needed only $27 to free themselves from their debts. So he did something that no economist had ever done before. He reached into his pocket, took out $27, and handed it to the villagers as small loans, no paperwork, no contracts, just trust. And something magical happened. Every single borrower paid him back. It was a simple act, but it changed everything. Yunus realized that poor people were not bad borrowers, as the bank said. They were honest, responsible, and deeply committed to improving their lives. If only someone gave them a chance. He went to local banks and tried to convince them to lend small amounts of money to the poor. But every banker laughed. Poor people don't pay back, they told him. They have no collateral, no education, no security. Yunus didn't give up. If you won't lend to them, he said, then I'll start my own bank. That's how the idea of microcredit was born, the revolutionary concept of giving small loans to poor people without requiring collateral. It wasn't about charity, it was about empowerment. Yunus believed that if people were given the tools and trust to work, they could lift themselves out of poverty. He started his project in the village of Jobra, calling it the Grameen Project, meaning village project. Soon, the idea spread like fire. Women who once begged for money now ran small businesses. They bought cows, opened shops, sold handmade crafts, and sent their children to school. Hope returned to their lives, but success did not come easily. Many criticized Yunus. Some said it would never work on a larger scale. Others accused him of trying to play God. Yet he stood firm, guided by one belief, that poverty was not created by the poor, it was created by systems that excluded them. He often said, "We have created a world that allows only one kind of person to succeed, the rich. But I believe that every human being is born with potential. We just need to give them a chance." His message resonated deeply, especially among women, who became the main focus of his work. In Bangladesh's rural villages, women had little voice, little money, and little power. Yunus changed that. He gave them not just loans, but confidence. They formed small groups, supported each other, and slowly built financial independence. Families began to eat better, children went to school, and generations started to rise from poverty. The small project soon grew into the Grameen Bank, meaning village bank. It became a symbol of what compassion and creativity could achieve when combined. Millions of people, once invisible, now stood tall. By the late 1980s, the Grameen Bank had reached thousands of villages. And while the world was busy chasing profits and power, Yunus was quietly proving something extraordinary, that kindness could be a business model, and that trust was more powerful than fear. But this was only the beginning. As his work gained attention, journalists from around the world came to Bangladesh to see how this quiet professor was changing the face of poverty. They saw villages transformed, children studying under solar lights, and mothers running businesses of their own. Yunus became a voice for the voiceless, standing on global stages and speaking about how a small loan could create big change. Yet he remained humble, always saying, "I'm not a miracle worker." The real heroes are the poor women who dared to dream. As the sun rose over the fields of Bangladesh, the sound of life had changed. The once silent villages were now full of laughter and energy. Women who used to hide behind the walls of poverty now carried baskets of goods to sell in the markets. Their hands were busy, but more importantly, their hearts were free. And at the center of it all stood Dr. Mohammad Yunus, the man who had dared to imagine a different kind of economy, one built not on greed, but on grace. His small experiment had become something much greater. The Grameen Bank, once a humble idea born in a single village, was now spreading across the entire country, but success didn't come without challenges. Many powerful people didn't like what Yunus was doing. Traditional bankers said he was a dreamer who didn't understand real business. Politicians thought he was making the poor too independent. Even some religious leaders criticized him for encouraging women to work outside the home, yet Yunus stayed calm. He believed that change always invites resistance. When you try to move the mountain of poverty, he said, you'll find many people sitting comfortably on top of it. He continued visiting villages, listening to people, learning from them, improving his model. The Grameen Bank began organizing borrowers into small groups, each member supporting one another. This group spirit built a culture of trust. If one woman struggled to pay back her loan, the others helped her. If one succeeded, her success lifted everyone else. It was a system based on community, not competition. The results were extraordinary. Women who could barely sign their names became business owners. Families built homes with solid roofs instead of straw. Children who once worked in fields now carried school books. Microcredit was no longer just a financial idea, it was a human revolution. The news began to travel far beyond Bangladesh. Journalists, economists, and social reformers from across the globe came to see what was happening. They couldn't believe that people with no formal education, no wealth, and no collateral could build thriving microeconomies with just a few dollars. Yunus began to travel too. He visited Africa, Latin America, and Asia, places where the same pain existed and where the same dream could grow. Everywhere he went, he shared one message: poverty is not created by the poor. It's created by the systems we built. If we change the system, poverty will disappear. The world started listening. Governments wanted to copy his model. NGOs wanted to partner with him. Universities invited him to speak. Yet Yunus remained simple, always dressing modestly, always smiling softly. He didn't see himself as a hero. He saw himself as a teacher, and the poor as his students and partners. He called his work social business. Unlike regular business, which aims to make money for owners, social business aims to solve problems for people. It doesn't chase profit, it chases purpose. Yunus dreamed of a world where businesses could exist purely to make life better, where making money wasn't the goal, but making change was. Years later, his dream began to bear fruit worldwide. The Grameen model spread to more than 100 countries. It reached farmers in Uganda, women in Nepal, and families in the United States. Microcredit became a global movement, but perhaps the most beautiful part of the story is how it changed people's hearts. In every country, someone heard the story of a poor woman in Bangladesh who started her own shop with a tiny loan, and thought, if she can do it, so can I. In 2006, something remarkable happened. The world finally recognized Dr. Yunus and the Grameen Bank for their revolutionary work. The Nobel Committee awarded them the Nobel Peace Prize. They didn't win for building a company. They won for building hope. For proving that peace isn't just about ending wars, it's about ending the silent war of poverty. When Yunus received the Nobel Prize, he stood on the stage in Oslo, humble as ever, and said, "We can put poverty in museums. Future generations will visit and say, once upon a time, people suffered from this thing called poverty." His words painted a picture of a future that didn't yet exist, but could. He believed that humanity had enough intelligence, compassion, and creativity to end suffering. All it needed was a little imagination and a lot of heart. Even after becoming a global icon, Yunus never distanced himself from the people he served. He kept visiting small villages, sitting on the ground with women, asking about their businesses and their dreams. To him, the Nobel medal was just a symbol. The real prize was seeing a mother feed her children, or a family build a home, or a girl become the first in her village to go to college. Over the years, he used his influence to create more social businesses, companies that made yogurt for malnourished children, solar panels for rural homes, and affordable healthcare for the poor. He worked with big corporations like Danone and Adidas to prove that compassion could be profitable too. And yet, even as the world celebrated him, he faced challenges at home. Political disagreements, jealous rivals, and misunderstandings led to difficult times. But Yunus remained calm through it all. He never lost faith in his purpose. "They can take away my title," he once said, "but they cannot take away my dream." Today, millions of people owe their independence, their dignity, and their hope to the movement he started. Microcredit has helped lift entire communities out of poverty, one small loan at a time. But perhaps the most powerful gift Yunus gave the world wasn't money, it was belief. He taught the world that the poor are not a problem to be solved, but a potential to be discovered. That trust can be more powerful than collateral. That a single idea, born in a small Bangladeshi village, can reach across oceans and inspire generations. Dr. Mohammad Yunus showed that a man with a simple vision, and the courage to act, can rewrite the rules of economics and bring humanity back to the heart of finance. He didn't just lend money. He lent dignity. He lent hope, and if there's one thing his story reminds us of, it's this: change doesn't always begin with governments, or armies, or billionaires. Sometimes, it begins with a man who refuses to walk past suffering without doing something about it. So, the next time you see a small act of kindness, or someone helping another rise, remember Dr. Mohammad Yunus, the banker to the poor, the dreamer who believed in people when no one else did. His story is a reminder that we don't need to be rich to change the world. We just need to care enough to start. I share stories like this every day. Subscribe so you don't miss the next one.